It's the ultimate travel guide from the people who know it best. Weekends with Yankee. Despite being the smallest state in New England, Rhode Island has a big impact on the region's food culture. Amy is meeting up with food writer Jamie Coelho to sample some of Rhode Island's signature delicacies.
So Jamie, thanks for being my guide today to Rhode Island food.
Happy to have you.
Rhode Island has like a ton of signature foods, kind of like Maine has its own signature foods, but this is a really small state and there are a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't think there's any place in the country that has so many specialty foods within the borders of the state.
So why are there so many unique foods to Rhode Island?
Well, I think Rhode Islanders really take ownership of things, and because we're so small, we want to have a hold of something and own it, and food is perfect for that because you can have so many different items that can only be found here. People try to replicate it outside of here, but it's just never the same.
And what are some of the foods that are sort of Rhode Island signatures?
So you've had clam cakes before in Olneyville, New York system, hot wieners. There's pizza strips, which we're gonna try today.
That sounds good.
And of course, we have to try an awful, which is not a milkshake and not a cabinet. It's more like ice milk with flavored syrup, and it's not awful. Then we have stuffies, which is a big stuffed quahog clam with breading and other ingredients.
Well, all this talk about stuffies and pizza is making me really hungry, so can we go do some eating?
Absolutely, let's go.
Okay.
First stop on the tour is DePetrillo's Bakery, the family-run business that's been serving Rhode Islanders for over 30 years.
Hey there.
Hi, welcome to DePetrillo's.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Cool spot. So tell me, you guys have a kind of unique history, I hear from Jamie.
Yeah, we started about 30 years ago. My uncle and his family opened up a location in Coventry, Rhode Island. We've since expanded from there, 5 locations here, all in Rhode Island, and we're a little twist on the traditional bakery.
So what are you best known for?
We're best known for our pizza strips. Have you ever had one before?
No. So excited to try one.
It's just covered in red sauce.
It's always room temperature, right?
Always room temperature, a little thicker crust, and more sauce put on that.
But there's no cheese on it. Is it really still pizza?
Of course it's still pizza. It's Rhode Island pizza.
So where would you serve a pizza strip?
They're at kids' birthday parties and school functions, tailgating events.
And if you have a football party with no party pizza, it's like a birthday party with no cake.
Yes, you're very right. Here in Rhode Island, we love our party pizza.
I want to get invited to more Rhode Island parties.
They're the place to be, yeah.
Can we see how you make them?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Follow me. Right this way.
Okay.
So this is where we make all our pizza.
It smells so good in here.
Roll out the dough.
Why the little divots?
And put some ear pockets in it
Okay.
so it doesn't rise up too much. And then,
Okay.
And then you just want to make a small little crust.
Like a ridge?
Correct.
Okay.
All the way around. And then we're going to put an ample amount of sauce on it. That's the secret.
Okay.
Same recipe for 30 years.
And who came up with the recipe?
It's a secret.
Yeah?
It's a family secret.
All right.
So there's gonna be no cheese, so you want full coverage of all the sauce.
All right, so how long did you have to work here before they let you know what was in
My
the sauce?
whole life, since birth.
So at your baptism, they like bathed you in marinara sauce?
Bathed me in marinara. Forget the water, marinara.
I see this beautiful sauce, but I'm still wondering why no cheese?
Well, it's a Rhode Island tradition, and legend has it that it started with all the Rhode Island bakeries. They used to use their extra bread dough to make pizza. And they had sauce and cheese on it, and all of a sudden, the health department came in and said, "You've got to refrigerate that pizza." And they said, well, we don't have the refrigeration, so they would just take the cheese off and put it on the counter, and people bought it just as it was.
So we have the government to thank for this
Yeah.
invention. I love it. Necessity is the mother of good pizza strips.
Right.
So how long does it cook?
About 25 minutes and 600 degrees.
600
degrees.
Wow.
Yep. And then we just wait.
Okay.
There's the ham and cheese.
Something healthy, so this way you can have that.
Great.
Oh, look at this. That is beautiful.
Wow.
Here we go. My first ever
This is your
pizza
first
strip.
one. Oh, yeah.
Mmm. Mmm. That is good sauce.
Yep.
Really good.
It's all in the sauce.
Mmm. I mean, it's different from pizza, and it's great. Like, it's just great as it is. So why room temperature and not hot?
It's just a Rhode Island tradition that started from when they just sold it on the counter. So
Right.
people just bring it home and eat it as is. Why waste time warming it up when it tastes good already?
It does taste good
Yeah.
already. Now I've gone beyond wanting to be invited to a Rhode Island party. I want to host a Rhode Island party.
Yeah,
now.
and I'll come and we'll have all Rhode Island foods. It'll be a theme party.
Well, thanks so much for introducing this really cool tradition. I really enjoyed it.
It's a pleasure
It's
meeting
fun
you.
for me too.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
The next stop is Newport Creamery. For over 75 years, they've been serving up a tasty treat with a not-so-tasty name.
Hey, ladies.
Hello. So what's this?
Well, it's an awful awful.
An awful awful.
It's a drink.
No, it's not just a drink. It's an awful awful.
Okay, this is my first awful awful, so I want to know exactly what goes in here. It's really thick.
Well, in the 1940s, they wanted to make a milkshake using ice milk and syrup, and they handed it to a customer after they made it, and the customer drank it up all in one gulp and said, "It's awfully big, awfully good." Thus, the name of an awful awful.
So this is different from a milkshake,
Correct.
and because milkshakes are made with ice
With real ice
cream.
cream, and this is made with ice milk.
Okay, so ice milk is thicker, but what is it actually?
Well, it's made with condensed milk, so that's what makes it so thick.
All right, let's try it. That is awful good.
I've had so many of these, but it's like the first time all over again.
Always the first time all over again.
I know enough about Rhode Island to know there's also something called a coffee cabinet. What's that?
Well, a coffee cabinet would be made with ice cream, so that would be one of our fraps.
Or what those of us outside of Rhode Island would call a milkshake.
A milkshake as well.
It's so good, and it's so thick and rich. Like, do people actually finish these?
They do. We actually have a challenge, the Awful Awful Challenge. I don't know if you're
Sounds
aware of
scary.
it. But if you drink 3 in a dining room setting, no time restraint, we'd give you the 4th one for free. And we have many people that have tried it,
All of them 15-year-old boys?
but few that have accomplished it.
And I have one friend who did it. He drank all 3, but he paid for that 4th one in his back seat.
Oh, I'm sure. And I've heard that rumor a lot of times.
So how do you make an awful awful?
You start with 3 to 4 scoops of the Awful Awful mix, the ice milk. Then you put 1.5 ounces of syrup in it,
Okay.
8 ounces of milk, and there's your 24-ounce Awful Awful.
What percentage of the awful awfuls that you sell are coffee flavored?
I don't know the exact percentage, but I guarantee you the percentage is the highest on the coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in Rhode Island. Everybody in Rhode Island likes coffee syrup.
Yeah.
If you go anywhere else, they don't even understand what coffee syrup is. We use the autocrap syrup,
good.
of
Yeah.
course, of
You're
course.
pure and original. I
You
like
have
it.
to keep
Yep.
it Rhode Island.
The final stop on our tour is Digger's Catch, where you can find steamers, oysters, periwinkles, and of course, Rhode Island's official state shellfish, cooked using an old family recipe.
Good afternoon, girls. How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
All right.
Ooh, this looks yummy.
Yeah.
What have we got here?
We got fresh stuffed quahogs today.
My favorite.
Tell me about stuffies.
Okay, stuffed quahogs. There were so many quahogs back in the day. They were easy to get. People went out and dug them themselves, and they used whatever was in the refrigerator left over. If it was peppers or corn or whatever, celery or onions and the old bread.
Looks like you have some chili flakes or something in there.
Yeah, some
something, right?
chorizo in there. You got
Oh,
you get the
chorizo.
chorizo.
large Portuguese community over here.
It sounds like Portuguese food really influences Rhode Island food.
It does, it does. There's a lot of Portuguese restaurants right here in the neighborhood. I sell a little next to all of them.
So what are the sizes? The quahog's the biggest one.
Quahog's the biggest one, then it goes down to cherry stone, then it goes down to top neck, and then it goes little neck.
Okay.
So little neck's the smallest and the quahog be the biggest. The bigger ones they use more for the stuffed quahogs, making the chowder, clam cakes, things
Right.
like that nature they use the quahog for. But it's all the same species.
So it's the official Rhode Island shellfish.
It is, and the Bay has them all over the place in the Bay, so they've been growing there for years and years, millions of years. So they do have them in other states,
Right.
but they don't call them quahog, they just call them clams.
You ever fished them yourself?
For 35 years, I've been a shellfisherman. That's how I got here, bull raking quahogs for years and years.
Wow.
And Rhode Island residents can actually go out quahogging for free. If you are a Rhode Island resident, you can go out and clam and take a peck of clams
Yep.
for yourself as long as you're paying attention to water quality rules for the day.
In the areas
Yeah.
that are open and the areas that are unopened. That's how the recipes all got here, because people had so many quahogs back in the day, you know? There wasn't a Stop and Shop and a Shores on every corner back
Right.
then.
What is it about this area that makes the shellfish so abundant?
Well, they say they were originated here in Rhode Island, and the Narragansett Bay being so large, one of the largest estuaries in the world, so they're in that special depth of water with that special current that feeds them with the plankton algae, and that plankton algae is what makes them thrive.
It's a lot of happy clams growing
There's
in
a
the
lot of
waters
happy
around
clams
here.
in Rhode Island, yeah. I've had clams from other places in other states, and it doesn't have the salty taste that our Rhode Island clam has.
Right. So tell me about your stuffed quahogs. I know everybody kind of has their own recipe.
Right.
Can
Well,
you share your secrets?
my secret is I keep it kind of traditional. It's just the quahog meat, some celery, and some ground chorizo, and the bread, and onions, and
Is this your
so
family
look,
recipe?
It's kind of the family recipe, yeah.
Yeah.
It dates back to my grandmother was born in 1900, and she learned it from her grandmother.
Wow.
So it
That's
goes
an old
back
recipe.
yeah, well,
Could we try your family recipe?
yeah, I got a couple of hot ones right here, all warmed up for us. We're all gonna have one, because I'm starving too.
Oh, those look so good. Your great-grandmother had really good taste. This is a great recipe. It's like a really nice mix of, you know, the chorizo. You can taste it, but the quahog is like definitely
See how
the main flavor.
You can
get
taste
that.
the flavor of that quahog
Yeah.
in there, yeah. All the flavors in the clam. The juice in these clams and everything is what makes the flavor of Rhode Island. It comes from the Narragansett Bay. That's a big thing. When you shuck them, you save the juice.
Right.
The juice gets into the bread and it flavors it all. My grandmother used to call it the clam liquor. She says, "Don't waste the liquor," she said.
One thing that occurs to me is today we've been tasting a lot of foods that are distinctly Rhode Island, but with this dish, we're really tasting the place. We're tasting the
This is-
flavor of the place.
This is the taste of the Narragansett Bay.
Yeah,
Next time I'll have to take you quahogging and we'll dig for our own clams.
I love that.
I'll give you my little recipe for that.
That'd be great. Well, thank you for having us
No
here and
problem.
for sharing your family
Appreciate it. No
recipe
problem.
and for showing me the taste of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
You'll be back.